Hi all, it's Les Posen. Question. Have you ever coped brilliantly for years, but only to find yourself suddenly panicking in situations you used to handle without effort? Crowded elevator, tunnel, on a flight, even a simple car ride. And you think to yourself, why now? I used to be fine. What's wrong with me? Well, today I want to go some of the distance to helping you understand what's going on and what to do about it. Hi all, it's Les Posen here. First session for 2026. I often see patients whose lament is, Les, I've been doing okay. I'm great in my career. I manage many things in my life. All of a sudden, out of seemingly nowhere, I can't fly very well, or I can't drive very well. I now can't get into elevators. I don't know what's happening to me. And so this is a great mystery, and it's also a great intrusion into quality of life. And oftentimes, they've often asked friends and even ChatGPT or gone to see a psychologist to say, well, what am I supposed to do about this? My life is fine everywhere else, except here. And I often will see patients who come to me almost as a last resort saying, I think I'm going crazy here. This just doesn't make any sense to me. And so oftentimes when patients speak to me out of the blue, out of nowhere, comes an interesting metaphor, a way to explain what's going on in the brain that helps people do a couple of things. One, find an understanding. And therefore, if we can understand it, there must be a way to change things. And that's a true statement. But number two, because I now come to an understanding and somebody else has an understanding of what's going on for me and can explain it to me in a way that makes sense, I don't have to be so hard on myself. I can be much more accepting in my role as a human being and what my brain does. And that's what today is partly about. In your home, you will have one of these things, either at the front of your home or somewhere, and most times you will never, ever use it. The way that modern homes are set up, the way that modern equipment is built, it's rare that these things, they're fuses, and this is a fuse box, will need to be altered through the life of the house. Mine, as you can see here, does have some additions made to it compared to when this house was built in 2016. My electrician came in and made some changes and beefed up some of these circuits. Why? Because I was putting in solar panels. Why? I was putting in a Powerwall battery. Why? I was also putting in a car, an electric car that was going to draw a lot of current. So the fuses needed to be beefed up, and the wiring to the back of the house also needed to be beefed up to deliver reasonable amounts of power, amperage to the car, so it would charge at the fastest it could from my home. Not nearly as fast as that supercharger, but not bad for my home. The metaphor is this. When do you actually need to know about these fuses? They sit there in the background doing nothing until you buy a new piece of equipment or one's given to you. You plug it in, it doesn't work, but all of a sudden several other things, and as you discover on the same circuit, power line, have also stopped working. That's when you ring somebody up and say, what's going on? And they say, have you checked the fuses? Fuses? What are they? Go to the front of the house and you'll find that one of them is down. Okay. In fact, in certain situations, they may all be down, or the master one, the big one that controls everything in the house, that's down. If one of them goes down, it means that particular circuit has been tripped because that new piece of equipment has drawn so much power it has overwhelmed the circuit, and for safety, it stopped the other devices on that line drawing power. Sometimes the whole thing goes when there's been a power surge coming into your house usually from outside of the house. Transformer is struck by electricity. There's some other surge down the line, and to protect your house and all the equipment in it from burning out and getting overpowered, those fuses kick in. Well, I want to suggest to you that your brain kind of has fuses built into it in case of either a significant one-off overload, things we now call a traumatic incident, or the current just builds up and builds up and builds up, and little tiny things start to add up until one more little addition to your circuitry kicks it over. I'm reminded of a policeman who was called out on often occasions onto country roads, and he saw some horrific car accidents over many years of his life. And he managed to sort of absorb this and do okay until one particular accident where he found a child's toy lying on the road near the accident. And this toy was similar to one he'd given to his child, who was the same age as a deceased child. And this broke him down completely, and he could not return to work. It was that one extra thing. And this is how fuses work. So it can be either a one-off big traumatic event, or it can be build up over time that doesn't allow you to recover sufficiently. Our brains are built like this. I mean, if I say to you 1231, you'd be able to call back to me 1231. To say backwards, you'd be able to say 1312. But if I keep adding numbers, 12314, 12315, 12318, sooner or later, around about 7 plus or minus 2, you will not be able to continue. Some people can, they've got prodigious memories, whatever it might be. If you think about your phone number, it may have 10 numbers in it, but you'll notice that we chunk it up into 3 sections, and that's how we reproduce it. So that's what happens. We can chunk things, but we have finite abilities to remember things. The idea that our brains have limitations is very important, and the way our brains work is that we have a fuse box, metaphorically speaking, which stops overload. In other words, the circuit trips to prevent all the other things from breaking down. Breakdown is a very important word. In the old days, people would be referred into hospital with a nervous breakdown. It's like a circuit that breaks down. And what's really important is that you're not broken, you've not gone backwards in your work, and you've not become weak or lacking in willpower. Whatever's going on, your internal fuse has done its job. It's preventing you from going further and further down a rabbit hole of things breaking. You've been prevented. Your system has been prevented from going into overload. So when patients say to me, yeah, I used to be able to fly, you could go anywhere, I used to be the strong one, they're probably quite right about that. But that doesn't mean their brains have stopped working properly. Okay? It just means that we're now discovering that the circuits haven't really been tested to their full limit in the current circumstances. Okay? We've got to find ways to restore the circuit breaker as simply as going flip and flipping the switch up or down, however the case may be. Rarely do we actually need to call an electrician in. But if all the fuses don't work properly or the same device keeps breaking the fuse, then we either get rid of that device or we check the circuit. That's when you call in the professional. Okay? So your sense of identity as a fully functioning person can be tripped over quite easily. And your task is to say, hold on, there's an explanation for this. I'm going to find out what it is. Okay? And that kind of requires you to go into those feared situations with words like, if it's an elevator, well, this elevator might overload me, or this tunnel could trigger panic in me, or the freeway might trap me in the tunnel, or on a lane where I can't quite get to my exit, and accept that these are the things that can happen to me. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It just means that I'm being triggered into having a fear of something, and I'm overestimating how troublesome this is going to be. Now, this sounds easy, but what happens over time is by your avoidance strategies, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be confronted with this. You change the threshold when your fuse kicks in, unfortunately. You actually weaken the fuse box rather than, as I did for my car and battery, whatever else, strengthen it. Now, if this makes sense to you, it's all about accepting that I have systems within me that are actually helpful, then we can do something about that. So this is a metaphor I plan to use with you, that of a fuse box that sits there quietly in the background, does its thing until it trips and it's needed to protect the rest of the circuitry. Now, what I'd like you to do is think about that, make some comments about your particular situation where, yeah, this fits for me. Make some comments. I'm going to use them, plus those of my recent patients from which this idea and metaphor has sprung. And in a couple of days' time after this particular video appears, I'll be posting the update, which is, now that we know this idea, what are we going to do about it? One thing to have a very nice model, but does that model extend to an intervention or to a way of changing things, which is just as easy to do or just as easy to understand? I think maybe the understand part is easier than doing. That still requires some effort. So I hope this has been a useful few minutes of your time. Make some comments below. Catch you next time. Bye for now.